Please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. I post a new Tom Brady video every day.
Jim Gray along with Tom Brady, a Tom Brady Town Hall right here on SiriusXM. And you always get the coverage you deserve with the great Pam Oliver. She's been at Fox Sports since the inception. She's covered 3 of Tom's Super Bowls on the sidelines. Pam, thanks so much for joining us. Go ahead.
Thanks so much, Jim. And Tom, it's always great to see you. And it's a wonderful conversation. I appreciate being a part of it. What I had for you was, if you ever had to speak to a rookie symposium, given that the average NFL career is it's under 3 years, and obviously with your longevity, which is part of your great history, and as you continue to go forward, what would you say to some of these young men who have all these hopes and dreams, and but that they really don't have much of a chance, many of them, to have a long career?
It's interesting, if you're speaking to that group of people that you would think about, and there might be, 20 of them in there, the reality is a lot of those guys will probably just be happy being in that room. There'll probably be another group that may just be happy to make the practice squad. There may be another group that may just be happy to have a short career. And there might be a couple that really want to become 10-year players, 20-year players. Because it really wouldn't, I could say as much as I want. In the end, it's really going to be what's inside of them. And I just think you look at that sample, and I still see a lot of those guys now, like, we have a practice squad. And, I see a lot of those guys in the practice squad. In the end, they're just super happy being on the practice squad. And that's totally fine. And I know there's a lot of players who I played with that are just totally content with the role that they have, because sometimes the difficult part about sports, and I learned this from Larry. Larry said an amazing thing to me last year, and we were in a conversation with a group of people. And he said, a lot of people don't like being in this position because of what comes with failure in this position. So therefore, you don't want to participate in this aspect, because if it doesn't go well, you also have to deal with this aspect. So the fear of failure ends up being a great inhibitor to the opportunities for success. And I'm sure that speaks to a lot of people in a lot of different careers, but certainly in sports. And the guys that I look in the huddle and I can see in their eyes, and Leonard Fournette's a good example. Lenny, we didn't quite know what we had last year, and there was ups and downs. And then came playoff time, and I looked him in the huddle, and he wanted to play. He wanted to play. And Julian Edelman, when you get in the huddle with Julian Edelman, when the game's on the line and you look in his eyes, that's who you want to go to battle with. And Rob Gronkowski, and I've had so many over the years. Kevin Falk. I could literally name. I feel bad naming a few because I don't get to name them all. But the true, warriors that you imagine, man, if I'm going down with these people. Mm-hmm. I always think how I gauge a player is, if it was the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, who do I want on the field with me? That's how I value their ability to perform and shine at the greatest. Because there's some guys I'm like, I might have them in the first quarter, but not the fourth. But if you got to win the game in the fourth quarter, who do I want out there with me? And I think that speaks to who you want and the value that you see in those people. And really, it comes down to, mental, physical toughness, and a lot of other great traits. So, players come in all shapes and sizes, and, they don't always have to be the biggest or the fastest. Some of them can just be, the guys that are willing to dig the deepest when it matters the most.
And just having a plan B. Did you have a plan B?
I never had any plan B. And that was it wasn't confidence. I'd say it was being naive. I had no plan. I literally had no idea what I'd be doing. I still don't. People still ask me, what are you going to do when you grow up? I haven't grown up. So, I thankfully never had to have a real job. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Great, Tom. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Bye, Pam.
Bye now.
Pam, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your work. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Jim.
Got another special guest. He's calling in. I think he's down on the field getting ready for the game tonight. This is someone, Tom, who you've looked up to your entire life. This is somebody who you wanted to be as a young man and as a kid. Hall of Famer Steve Young. He's also former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. I know a lot of people don't remember that, but I'm unfortunately old enough that I do recall those days. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. How are you, buddy?
Good to see you, pal.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great. I haven't seen you in so long. And Steve Young,
I know.
for everyone out there, I grew up in the Bay Area, and fortunately, Steve was the reason why I fell in love with quarterback, and was someone I looked up to in every way, a winner on and off the field, and an amazing guy. So thank you so much. Love seeing you, and hope I get to see you soon.
Yeah, Tom, you're the man. I appreciate our friendship through the years, and now full circle. I started in Tampa Bay. You're finishing there, and you're making it look a lot better than I ever did. That's for sure. I was on two. Tom, my only claim to fame in Tampa was I was the MVP of the 2-14 season. And the funny thing is, I came back the next year as a 49er and received the trophy at halftime of the 49er Tampa Bay game. So in the creamsicle uniforms back when it was like an inch thick, the jerseys. But anyway. We won't belabor that. Congratulations and everything. I have a question for you, and a little prelude, if you don't mind. Reggie White, whenever I'd play him, we were good friends. But Reggie, as you know, ultimate competitor, amazing defensive lineman, one of the best ever. And you could hear him coming. And when you drop back to pass, he made a lot of noise. Like he'd scream and yell, and you could hear it coming closer and closer and closer. And when he'd finally get me, it was amazing that all of a sudden, after all that screaming and yelling, he'd grab me, turn me upside, and then let me fall back on top of him. And then he'd want to talk. Hey, Steve, how you doing? How's it going? How's the family? I haven't talked to you in a long time. I'm sure you've had this experience with some of the defensive linemen. It's rare. And I guess I bring that up because Reggie, to me, was the ultimate example of someone being able to take an intense, adrenaline-filled moment and then in a flash of a moment, put on a different pair of shoes and be a friend. And so there's an athleticism to it. And so my question to you is, and I've actually wondered this, how do you, from all of the rigor of what you have to do to be one of the best that ever, obviously the best that ever played, that you have to, there's a certain rigor to that every day. But then to put on the shoes of a family man, that you've proven that you've done such a good job of that. And there's some secret to it. I know there's something that you've done that you can share with us all on how you put on different pairs of shoes daily, minute to minute, so that you can be present. Reggie was present in the moment, even though it was adrenaline filled. He could be a friend. How are you a dad and a superstar and all the things that you have to handle? Give people that some of us kind of a more mere mortals some ideas on how to put on different pairs of shoes and how you've done that.
I think just like you guys do. I mean, I really believe, you guys have set so many great examples. And I think the best thing I ever had was a dad that loved me and cared for me and was invested in me. And, I was the only son and the youngest. So I got spoiled by my dad and by my mom and by my three sisters. And, I just think for me, the competitive aspect is the competitive aspect. And then the parts where I get to not be competitive is good. And I think there was parts of my life, earlier in my life, where I was competitive in everything. And, now I'm more selectively competitive with, other aspects of life. And I think the time to compete's on the football field. And it's not, other aspects of life probably I'm not as competitive in other than a little golf here and there. But, we do flip a little switch when we get on the field because, you got to, because they're coming to get you, and they're if they can sack Tom Brady at this point, and not to use, me in third person, but, I hear all the time, man, if there's one guy I want to sack, it's because I'm the oldest guy out there and they've, I'm twice their age. So they want to sack me and it's pretty easy to get to me. They know where I'm going to be. I'm not moving anywhere. I'm not Steve Young, for God's sakes. I'm Tom Brady. I stay in the pocket. I'm 5 yards behind the center on every play. You're going to know where I'm at, and if they could toss me down on the ground, they're gonna. So, some of the rules, fortunately, they got to, they can't quite pile drive me like they used to, but at the same time, it's just, we got to flip the switch and it's fight or flight and, you got to fight.
Tom, I can tell you that's actually, you said something that I think I don't want to have them miss it, because the truth is people think to get ahead in life, you have to be ultra competitive in everything, at every time, at every moment. Otherwise, you're not an ultimate competitor. Yet what you just described is there's a maturity to competitiveness where you pick your spot. It's a white hot moment where you're going to be the most competitive person alive for that moment. and then you can flip a switch. And I guess that was my question: is how you've learned to flip that switch. And that's what I've noticed. A lot of people who think that they're ultra competitive, they don't know that it's not the time. Like I don't need to race you to the car door. I don't need to like there's a lot of times when you're competitive, it just doesn't make sense. So I appreciate that. That's a mature statement right there that I think I hope everyone can hear, because it would change a lot of people's lives who think that you have to be competitive 100% of the time, 100% of the places.
Yeah. That gets exhausting. It gets exhausting to try to shit. I'm tired thinking about all that.
It's counterproductive as well, right? I mean, it's like you're never as good a competitor because you exhaust yourself. So that's a good point. Well, I don't know how you do it at home either. I mean, with kids and everything else, it's amazing. Yeah. Well, that's a lot of, I think there's, I always consider inputs and outputs, and what gives me input and what's output, and when you do things you don't want to do, it becomes more of an output as opposed to, doing things I really love to do are inputs for me. And I got it, as I've gotten older, I was saying earlier on the call before you joined, the mental emotional aspect is harder for me at 44 than the physical part. Some people, it's the physical part. I've learned, very fortunate to have the right people to take care of myself physically, but the mental emotional, idea of what I'm missing out on and I need to, I got so many people that want to come to games, but before the game, I just need to have my energy. I got to go out there and I need energy for, all the guys that are come chasing me down. So, I've got to have that as well as, the physical part. So that's the most challenging part these days. Yeah.
Steve, I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you a question before you go. You obviously are an MVP, a Super Bowl champion, but when you hear a 7-time Super Bowl champion say to you that you are his hero, and he has only identified you and his father and Joe Montana, even though he liked Michael Jordan and Barry Bonds, he's identified you as one of 3 people who is his hero. How does that hit you, and what does that fill you with?
To be honest with you, I owe Roger Staubach a great debt because he was my hero. And his poster was up. I didn't meet him until he walked out on the field of the 92 championship game to play the Cowboys. That's the first time I ever met him. But I'd known him for 20 years. And the influence he had in my life was profound. And in many ways, I'm paying it forward my whole life for what Roger did for me. And so what warms my heart is that helps me feel like I paid it forward, that Tom would feel that way about me, tells me that I did my part. It's like I owe Roger this debt. He didn't know me. He didn't know me from Adam, but the influence he had on me was profound. And so I feel like it's a heartwarming thing to think that Tom feels that way about me. And it's always been important to me. I remember when he called me down, he was up in the hotel in the Pro Bowl, and I was down there at an alumni. My first year I retired, I was in some kind of a goofball flag football game at the Pro Bowl after I'd retired. And he called me when I was running around trying to make plays. And he goes, "Hey, you got it," and I still remember just the appreciation for the hard work. And I think that's it's very meaningful. But more than anything, Jim, what you just asked me is super important to me that I've paid it forward and there's an impact, and that means a lot to me, the world to me. Thank you.
You have indeed. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Hey, great to be with you.
That's it for this video. I post a new Tom Brady video every day, so please like and subscribe. That way you'll always have a new Tom Brady video to watch every single day. Thanks for watching.